kid. I know you can do it. You gotta hit the wall, kid. Come on, you can do it. Huh? Hit the wall. You can do it. Wait. You can do it.
Wait. I'm done that, Sonny.
Any more? Hey, I don't want your money touching my money.
What's the matter?
I don't want your money in the same
My
neighborhood.
money's no good no more. Why?
Why? Because you're a fucking jinx. That's why. Here, put him in a fucking bedroom. Get him
Get him out of here.
Welcome to Kyle Anthony's UFC betting show. I am Kyle Anthony, and welcome to the podcast. Welcome to the prediction show for UFC on ESPN plus 36. Colby Covington versus Tyron Woodley. We're going to have 3 free plays that we're going to talk about on this card. Already have my package up on Wagertalk for clients, linked down in the description. We actually had our client play last week. We had 3 of them. 2 of them were canceled of the 3 out of the package. So was able to, prior to the event, credit everybody back in wager bucks, so you will see that credit. Hopefully by today, you will see the credit back in your account. Definitely let me know if you don't for some reason, but we are crediting them back. The only play that we did have live was on Angela Hill. Thought we cashed in on that. Very, very close fight. Overall, striking was close. There was some, exchanges that, I thought was favoring Hill going into the decision. I did not want to hear a split decision because I thought we had it, and once there's a split decision, got a little worried. They did give the nod to Waterson. She did get the victory there. Thought we had it cashed in, but we did not cash in. But for the year, we are still at plus 46% return on investment for clients. Still having a strong year overall. Doesn't that feel good? We went 0-1 last week. Got a bunch of plays that lined up right now. Again, take a look. And if this is your first time on this channel, if you're into sports gambling, you're into UFC gambling, you're into UFC content as a whole, definitely subscribe. Give this video a thumbs up. Always appreciate it. Helps this channel grow. So what we're going to talk about here, we're going to talk about the main event. I'm going to have 2 plays on the main event. I'm going to pick a side as well as a prop. So want to get into that. What we always do here, talk about 3 fights for each fighter. Go into what we see if one fighter can expose the other fighter, and if it makes sense to place a bet. So what we're going to first talk about here is we're talking about Colby Covington. Right now you got the current line. You got Covington as at a minus 385 currently. You've got Woodley who's at a plus 290. So we're going to talk about Covington first. And Covington, 3 fights ago, fought Rafael Dos Anjos. Now, RDA versus Covington, although Covington pretty much has issues and beef with pretty much everybody in the UFC. But this was another one of those kind of heated battles. He was talking about really, laying the beat down on him. And this was a fight here was just, again, the way that Covington really fights. And he comes out there with pure pressure, big volume, a lot of cardio. And this was no different to what he's done pretty much in his career. He goes out there and right away really just kind of gets right on RDA. Really smothering him, heavy pressure. And again, we're going to talk about each of these last 3 fights. That is exactly the way that he pretty much fights every single fight. The smothering pressure, the volume up top, the volume pushing down, and a lot of things that he likes to do is he is a wrestler, he's got that wrestling background, but a lot of what he does is he likes to go in there and just get you up against the fence and make you work. Have you just carry his body weight. Even if he kind of gets you down to one knee and, wrestling you in that spot, even if you get back up, he gets you back down. Just a lot of energy that he forces opponents to do, to drain themselves, just to kind of get out of these certain situations. In this spot here, this was just a clear, in my opinion, the scorecards were a little bit closer than the way I judged it. I thought it was a very clear decision victory for him. A couple of them had, 3-2, I think it was, but I had like a 4-1. It was pretty clear, but a good showing for Covington. He goes out there and gets a decision victory against RDA. 2 fights ago, he fought Robbie Lawler. I was at this fight, and this is a fight here where, I had bet Covington in this spot. Everyone hates him, and everyone's cheering for Robbie because Robbie's a fan favorite. I'm a big fan of him as well. But this was a spot here where this was just going to be another volume play again, where he's going to go in there, push forward, and this was no different. I mean, this was a dominating showing for Covington. The big pressure going forward, high striking volume. Lawler definitely is known to have some good takedown defense, but in this spot, he was able to really smother him again, push forward again. And throughout this fight, I think the one thing that Robbie was looking for was the big shot. Trying to create that space with Covington is very difficult. And Covington is not a guy that's looking to go out there and lay the big shot. He's a guy that kind of, they joke he's got pillow fists and that kind of thing. But he definitely does not have the power. But he kind of, I would more correlate it to the way that, the Diaz brothers kind of fight. They're not really looking for the big knockout punch. They're not really looking for that. They're just really, they're not throwing a shot at 100%. They're maybe throwing it at 65, 70%, but they can just pour out the volume. And that was something that he was able to do against Lawler throughout the rounds, 5 straight rounds. It was a sweeping decision victory for Covington. He goes out there, pushes forward, never was a shot for Robbie to really go out there and get that victory. He goes out there, Covington gets the decision victory. And then most recently, he fought the current champion, Kamaru Usman. Now, I'll dive into this one a little bit more. And this was a situation where you got two guys that have very big gas tanks and kind of fight very similar to an extent. And obviously both of them are wrestlers, both of them like to, get in the scrap, get in the wrestling game, look for ground and pound, have pressure, get you up against the fence, some dirty boxing in there. And this was an interesting fight because early in this fight, the first round or two, I really had Covington. I mean, Covington, I thought, looked great, his striking looked great, he looked sharp, he was pushing forward a lot, and both of them were looking for the big shot. I mean, early in that first round, they both kind of fired big shots, both landed big shots, and you saw even throughout this fight that neither of them even looked to wrestle. And that was a little bit surprising. I mean, I guess, people always joke around about that. You got two, stand-up guys, all of a sudden turns into a grappling match. You got two grappling guys, it turns into a stand-up match because they kind of nullify each other, or they kind of stay out of the way of the other one's strength and look for another path to victory. But it was a situation where it was really almost a boxing match in an MMA cage throughout this fight. But early in those first 2 rounds, I thought was really Covington. I thought Covington did a lot of damage, and I thought he looked a little bit better. And even on the stand-up, I mean, Usman has, I think, the strength, but he didn't even look to the takedown. Thought that was a little odd that he wouldn't look for it a little bit more than he did. But he goes out there in those first 2 rounds. I thought Covington looked great. Going into that 3rd round was really where Usman kind of changed the pace a little bit. He landed a nice big shot, and all of a sudden you did see Covington's volume kind of tick down a little bit. And that's something that I think that you have a guy that can match the output of Covington, and that's something that Covington doesn't really have. I mean, he's known to have the top level cardio, also Usman, so they were both able to really kind of go toe to toe with volume, with cardio, with pressure, and it looked like it was starting to break a little bit on Covington into that 3rd round. It was the best round that Kamaru Usman had. 4th round, actually, I think, was the 4th I also had for Covington as well. Going to that 5th round, I mean, I pretty much had it either a 2-2 or a 3-1 for Covington. Going into that final round, I thought he did a lot more damage. But it was really where you did see, again, the first part of that fight really looked to be more Covington, and then in that later part of the fight, it started to actually look like really Usman was really pushing forward, landing big shots, and you don't really see Covington kind of just be kind of gassed out and drained. That was happening there. Landed the big shot, dropped Covington, and then he ended up getting on top for the ground and pound. They were talking about, was it a questionable stoppage? Definitely not. Usman got the job done, and nobody likes losing, but it wasn't this vicious knockout. So Covington, again, is tough. He was kind of coming back to his senses. Any more damage, it was obvious that he had gotten that victory. So he goes out there. He does lose against Kamaru Usman. We're going to talk about Tyron Woodley, who is plus 290. 3 fights ago, he fought Darren Till. This was a fight here where I did bet Woodley, and the way this all kind of transpired in this fight, I thought was very interesting, just because Till is a guy that has the big power. He's another guy who likes to bully, big for the division, looking to push forward, has the big left hand. And in that first round, Woodley is not a guy that's going to pour out volume. That's just not his thing. It really hasn't been his thing. He does have the power, but it has not been his thing where, kind of goes up against the cage and fires and lunges forward. That's kind of been his thing that he's done for a long time in his career. In the first round, Woodley kind of fired out first quickly, kind of wanted to get going really quickly, and then he kind of went back to what he does. And that's kind of, again, outside, low volume. He's done it with multiple other fighters, the Stephen Thompson fights, and you've seen that, Maya fights. You've just seen kind of, not really much. And some of those fights there, they kind of said, hey, maybe Woodley, against such a great, karate expert in Thompson, maybe that's why he was low volume. And then it was like, hey, maybe Maya, he was worried about the takedowns. That's why it's low volume as well, too. So there was different reasons here. And in this situation here against Till, it was really set up for a great spot for him to really pour out some volume, show that aggressive style that has made him a champion in the past. And well, in this fight, he actually still was a champion, but made him the champion. And in that first round, they both really didn't do too much. It was very low volume. Till had, and I'm pretty sure it was 4 or 5 strikes, 4 or 5 strikes landed in the first round. Not very much, and that just, again, maybe the moment was a little too big for Till at that point in his career. Going to that second round, Till wanted to turn it up a little bit. He comes right out, guns blazing, pushes forward, throws the big left, completely misses. Woodley counters, drops him. That was pretty much where the fight ended up being for the rest of the second round. A lot of ground and pound, vicious ground and pound, kept him on his back, and then Woodley works to the Darce choke, gets the finish in the second round. It was a good showing for him there. Again, there were some question mark spots that I didn't like seeing, which kind of changed my attitude towards him heading into the next 2 fights. But he goes out there and gets a submission victory against Darren Till. In the title fight against Kamaru Usman, Woodley faced him there, and this was a fight where I just didn't like what I saw about the way Woodley looks. And I'm very big into how they look in the gym, how they look on their, whether it's their Twitter, Instagram, how they look at weigh-ins, how they weight cutting even prior, not even to just this particular fight, but how they look. And if you go back and you take a look at, I'm not saying Woodley's a PED kind of guy, but if you go back only a year or two, somewhere in that realm, Woodley's a giant. Woodley is a monster. And now I know he's kind of, again, heading towards more of the end of his career, but he just doesn't look the same. And going into that Kamaru Usman fight, I was just not confident when you saw him take his shirt off. He did not look like he's in shape. Not saying he's some fat slob, but he definitely did not look like that big monster that he used to be. Usman looked to be that monster, and he just manhandled him for all 5 rounds. He went out there, took him down, and that was a big thing against Woodley too, is that he's got power, and also he's got great takedown defense. Usman is obviously a top-level wrestler, but there was no sense of defensive takedowns at all for Woodley. And that could be something that Covington could look to utilize going into this fight, is maybe against Usman when Covington fought him, they're kind of looking at it and saying, hey, you know what? I don't think I'm able to take him down. He may actually look to bring that into this fight against Woodley. That's something that Covington I'm absolutely sure that he's going to do. He's not going to take that out of his game and say, I'm not going to wrestle him like he did with Usman. I think he's going to go out there and do that. Usman in that fight goes out there and just manhandles him, wrestles him to the ground and pound. I mean, there were points where Woodley looked completely lost on the ground, took big damage, and then throughout the fight, I mean, I don't even think he won a round in that fight. He goes out there, Usman gets the decision victory, a dominating showing for Kamaru Usman, and Woodley goes out there and gets that loss. And then we've got, most recently against Gilbert Burns, this is another one that I took, faded Woodley again. Burns was about a plus 160, plus 170 range, and pretty much for the same reasons why I didn't like Woodley the prior fight is also why I didn't like Woodley here as well. The striking, I love the way that Burns strikes. I really like the way that he strikes, but when you've got a guy who has all these credentials in BJJ and he's been a world champion and now he's really elevating his striking, he's fearless in there, he likes to go toe-to-toe, he is not scared, he does not want to play it safe, he goes out there, he's really taking advantage of his opportunities in the UFC. Burns has really skyrocketed, and obviously he's going out there, he's going to be fighting the champion Burns, but in this fight here against Woodley, it was a lot of the same. I mean, even when they stood toe-to-toe, Burns is landing big shots. I mean, there was a point in that first round, I mean, it almost could have been stopped. I mean, the way that Burns was, laying it on that first round, the second round, and again, it was the same kind of thing. There was really no takedown defense, really no striking from Woodley, and Woodley consistently says, over the, even before Thompson, I'm going to get started quick. I got to get out there. I got to start quick. And he hasn't done it. And, Woodley is who he is at this point. I mean, past champion, has some unbelievable knockouts, really respect to the guy. But at this point in his career, I hate everything I see from Woodley overall. Burns goes out there, absolutely dominates him. Another ragdoll performance, throwing Woodley around. I mean, Woodley really did not look good at all. Burns goes out there and gets the decision victory. Woodley takes the loss. So with that being said, I mean, I'm kind of already, showing my hand on who I'm going to pick. Still the prop bet, but when you look at this situation here, I mean, you've got the thing here, you've got Covington, who's got great cardio, he's good box, great wrestling, high volume, and that is a big part, I believe, in this fight is going to be very important, because you've got a guy like Woodley who has very low volume, and the cardio is a little bit in question for Woodley. I mean, you've seen him, I mean, although he was wrestling, but he was just getting thrown around, looked exhausted early in both of his last two fights. And you've got someone like Colby, who's going to be able to go out there, lay out some big strikes, lay out good volume, get you up against the fence. And the heavy pressure is something else that really is going to be exposed in this spot again. Obviously, it's something that Covington likes to do, but in this spot here, Woodley's the kind of guy who does back up, and for some reason he's done this, again, something he's done throughout his career, is he kind of lets his opponent walk him down, he stands with his back against the cage, lunges forward. In those situations there, I don't think it's a good spot again for him, because you've got a guy like Covington who loves to get you up against the fence, loves to kind of work the dirty boxing, loves to do that. And if he's going to be able to sit there and grapple with Woodley, tire Woodley out with a guy that has very, very high cardio, that's a very bad spot for him. Obviously, that's a bad situation. And I think that the one part of the loss that Covington took, I really more correlate that to really Usman's insane cardio as well, really matching with Covington. I think Covington was looking to break. Most of the time he breaks his opponent. By the round 3 or whatever it may be, if it's a 5-round fight or even if it's a shorter 3-round fight, he just breaks his opponents by sheer volume, pushes forward, and then his opponent just does not have the offense. Usman kept having the offense, and all of a sudden, Covington saying, "This is my go-to. I can't get out of this. He's matching me with my striking." This is a situation here where Woodley's not going to have that. Woodley's not going to have that output. He's not going to have the cardio. He's going to be in positions where Covington wants to be. That's going to be a bad situation. The other side, obviously, you've got Woodley. He's got power. He's a past champion. But the recent decline for him is just evident, I think, at this point. I'm not trying to say things on the outside of the UFC are really taking over for him, but he's talking, music career and all these other things that he's doing, and he's at the end of his career, and more power to him whether he retires or keeps fighting. But you could just see the decline. I mean, over the last 2 fights, he didn't win a round. His backup against the cage, like I was just talking about, I think is a huge, huge advantage for Covington to really expose the cardio and allow the volume to really pour out in that situation. So with that being said, obviously at this point, as a straight bet and just giving you a side, I'm going to be taking Covington here. I think that even I tweeted about this. You can take a look at Kyle Anthony UFC. Follow me on Twitter. Always appreciate the likes, the retweets, and the comments there. But one of the things that I talked about, and right when this was announced, was if this is under 450, minus 450, I'm taking it straight. I mean, I'm gonna pay up a little bit, and I'm gonna take this straight, because I just think that this line right here, I just don't see much of a way for Woodley to win. Could he land the big bomb? I don't think so. I don't really see that at this point in his career. I think Covington's going to fight smart, pull him into deeper water, and find the opportunity to grind it out. And that puts me to my prop bet here. Obviously, if you're trying to get off the big number there, minus 370, 375, 380, somewhere in there, the number is kind of teetering around. I like here and taking Covington via decision. That's a minus 130. I think that's a great price right now when you're taking a look at really the paths to victory. I mean, is Covington going to go out there and knock him out? Probably not. Is he going to submit him? Probably not. The way that he really likes to go out there and get these victories is grind the hell out of these guys and just work the volume. He talks about it. He talks about his cardio. He's not scared to say, hey, I'm just going to beat the hell out of you for 5 rounds. He does not care. He could not care about making the crowd happy either by getting the finish. I think this is something where he wants to go out there and beat the heck out of Woodley for 5 rounds. Getting off the big number, you can get it at a minus 130 right now. Covington via decision. So those are my 2 free plays for the main event. We've got Covington to win and Covington method of victory via decision. Now the other free play that I'm going to be talking about is, I believe it's going to be the co-main event, is Donald Cerrone versus Nico Price. I'm not going to dive into this one too much. I'm not going to give the plays or the past fights. I'm just going to give you my thoughts and the pick on this one here. So right now you've got Nico Price. He's a -160. You've got Donald Cerrone is roughly around the +130 range. And really taking a look at these guys, and you've got Donald Cerrone right now. I mean, obviously a legend, obviously a guy that people like watching him fight. Puts on always a great performance. Goes out there with always a killer mentality. Not looking to play it safe. Another guy that doesn't play it safe. But in this spot here, he's a great kickboxer. He's got good Muay Thai, good in the clinch. He mixes it up really nicely. I like what he does, obviously, with, he doesn't just focus on one body part. He's working on your legs, the body, the head, mixes up really nicely. And I think his output's pretty good. I think the output is also something that has given him a chance to go out there, get victories when he goes out and he pushes out that volume. And then you've got Nico Price. Some of the great things about him is obviously he's another brawler, so this should be really an entertaining fight overall. But the wild and unorthodox style is something very hard to train for. And Nico is the kind of guy that, he's not technical. He's not a guy that's going to be very technical out there, but he's going to be very creative with his striking. He's going to come from different angles. He's going to do different things that, sometimes they get him in trouble because he is, kind of throws himself out of position in certain spots. But I think the big part here for him is that pressure. And that's something that I think that can really expose Cowboy in this spot. Now, I'm not saying that Cowboy always loves to have space. He's okay in the clinch. But more or less, I think that a guy like Nico could get inside and cause some problems with Cerrone in tight, where Cerrone maybe wants to use his kickboxing, wants to use some of his shots from the outside, have that space, distance management. And we take a look at the other side of this, is that, Covington, Cerrone, he's the questionable chin at this point. I mean, he's coming off 4 straight knockout losses in a row. Not very good. He's very hittable. He's a guy that is not scared to just kind of let his defense kind of subside a little bit to pour out more offense. That gets him into a lot of trouble overall. He falls in love with the brawling side of things and really kind of looking to outpoint. Again, it's a reason why he is a fan favorite, but it also has gotten him into problems. And this late in his career, I don't know if that really is a great thing for him at this point. I mean, again, it's worked for him, and, it's a great spot, but Nico does have power. He does have the pressure. Obviously, over the last 4 fights, he's 0-4. Lost to some killers, so you can't knock that. He's lost to Ferguson, Gaethje, McGregor, and Anthony Pettis, so obviously you can't take that away from him. But the MMA mileage on top of that as well, just a lot. I mean, obviously, at this point in his career, where he's at, the wars that he's had, he's willing to go out there and fight anybody. He was kind of building towards a title challenge opportunity, and then he just is, he fought that upper tier. He got ran through, and, and now he's back at kind of just looking for those fun fights. We've got Nico Price, he's 2-2 in his last 4 fights. But less MMA mileage, and I just think the way that this could go is going to be a brawl. I like Nico Price here. I think that he has a good spot to go out there. The questionable chin of Cerrone, I think, can be exposed in this spot at a -160. I'm not concerned at all about that price. I think that price is a good price right now on a guy that's really tearing down at this point. If he loses 5 straight, would he retire? Probably not. Should he? I would think so. I mean, again, he's lost to killers, but he's taken a lot of damage overall in that spot there. So I will be taking as my 3rd free play Nico Price to defeat Donald Cerrone at -160. So I did a quick one there, but those are my free plays for UFC on UFC Plus 36. And that's it. So definitely, subscribe, appreciate the likes. Follow me on Twitter at KyleAnthonyUFC. Always appreciate the comments, the conversations. And again, we are against the bookies. It's us against them, and we're here to make some money. So hope you enjoyed the show, and I will see you next time. Looking forward to some of these big cards that are coming up, and we'll definitely be talking about them here. So this is Kyle Anthony's UFC Betting Show, and I'll see you next time.